As a part of my channel, The Magic of Java, I've decided to add a section, Tarot from Java. So welcome to your tarot readings from the mountains in Java. Hello and greetings. I've got a new tarot deck called Tarot Nusantara. Now I should explain the word Nusantara simply means archipelago. But in Indonesia it's synonymous with Indonesia, Indonesia being a archipelago. And it's by a man based in Jogja called Hisyam A Fachri. And I'm just really blown over by it. It's based on the Rider Waite tarot deck, so it's fairly easy to use. But there's some nuances to it that seem to have really struck a chord with me. And that chord is my readings that my practice readings so far are so much more deep and spiritual. I'm even telling people about their dreams and interpreting them for them. So it's definitely a deck that I'm going to incorporate in my readings from now on. Now the deck comes in rather a nice handcrafted box, which is just as well because the cards themselves are wrapped in not cling film, in plastic. There's a plastic wrapping to them. Although fortunately there's a pouch. Now I've not used pouches up until now and I was sort of somewhat dismissive of it. But as I was cleaning my cards with salt, I realised that I could put salt inside the tarot, inside the pouch, and so I can keep my cards clean that way. Now, if you do practice this, remember to change your salt every so often. But, maybe I'll get used to using a pouch, so the pouch is quite welcome. It also comes with a booklet, and it comes with a pendant or pointer, if you like. So, it's very nicely presented, I would say. Now, I described this as a pendant, but it's really, I suppose, a pendulum, particularly because Hisyam is also a hypnotist, but of course in tarot it would be used more as a pointer. Because I guess it's used in hypnosis, it doesn't really matter, but it's only plastic, it's very cheaply made. To me as a Kajawan practitioner, it won't contain any jinn or any spirit because it's plastic, it's not made of real stone, but I guess it's something nice to have. It does come with a book, which looks really interesting, I have to say. I mean, I've not really tried to read it that much, partly because it's in Bahasa Indonesia, which, I can just about understand, but it would be hard going. But the other thing is, the print is quite small and it's not printed particularly well. However, I do believe that there is an English translation available on his site, which I'm going to look into further because of, as I say, I'm very impressed with the feel of the cards themselves, and I think there might be some fantastic information in here, because although it's based on the Rider Waite deck, there clearly are some nuances to it that I'm going to try and explain my initial interpretation of right now. But maybe as I delve in deeper, I'll find much deeper nuances to it. If we look at the major arcana, I suppose, well, first of all, let's say how beautiful they are. They really are. They follow lovely Indonesian, mostly Javanese themes, I would suggest. Now, what might put you off is that the titles, there are titles on them, but the titles are written in Bahasa Indonesia, or at times the words used are Javanese words interspersed with Bahasa Indonesia. However, each one is numbered, so you can check on the meaning through the numbers, and they do correspond to the major arcana. One of the things that I find most interesting is his choice of words. So, for example, for the Empress, he uses Sang Ratu, and for the Emperor, Sang Raja, which literally means the Queen and the King, rather than the Emperor and the Empress. He didn't choose to use the word Sultan, maybe because he's clearly attempted it to be sort of ecumenical. But to my mind, the choice of the word Queen and King does represent something slightly different to Emperor and Empress. So when we look at the Hierophant here, he uses the word agama, which means religion. Now, it could be any religion, and I'd include in that Kajawan. So he's very much hitting on the religious aspect of the Hierophant, which, again, I find quite interesting. I find the Justice card also interesting. I suppose throughout what I'd say is that the happy cards or the lighter cards are much lighter and joyous, but the darker cards are more dark. And in this one, well, you know, justice is neither good nor bad, is it? But what is interesting is she's holding up a kris, which is the sword, the ritual sword, that was used for executions. So a piece of cotton was placed on the shoulder blade and the sword was pushed through the shoulder blade, piercing the heart. So death was almost immediate. But it's quite a dark interpretation of it, isn't it? Another one that leapt out was the Devil card, which he uses the word Satan, which really means demon more so than devil. Again, maybe it's being ecumenical because the word we normally use for devil is the Arabic word or the Muslim word Iblis. But the fact that it means demon, I think is interesting and probably has, to my mind, a greater significance. Now, the Judgment card I find the most interesting because he's used the word PENGADILAN, AKHIR, which means the last judgment. So he clearly has in mind, well, I suppose it's any Abrahamic religion, isn't it? But the final judgment, the judgment of God. And I think that really sums up the Judgment card much better than the sort of Western view of judgment, and it's something I'll certainly incorporate into my readings. And now for wands, he uses the word TONGKAT, which literally means stick, but it comes back to wands because the word TONGKAT has something of a mystical meaning, and it's something that I very much associate with President Sukarno. And I remember as a child, I don't know if it was this picture, but I remember seeing Sukarno on television with his sunglasses and his TONGKAT in hand. And I felt there was something very powerful about it. Indeed, the TONGKAT that he uses is known as a TONGKAT commando, which is really a sword stick. And still today, high-ranking officers carry these TONGKAT officers in the army carry these TONGKAT commandos. So it signifies their power and their rank. Now, all of the cards in this TONGKAT range use sort of a red-brown motif, which really means intuition. And the patterns that you see on it are very much from Java or Bali. You might be confused at me lumping Java and Bali together, but the culture is almost identical. The Javanese originally came from Java. So, you know, there isn't really a big distinction when you get to culture. despite most Westerners thinking it's completely different. Now, I don't think this is a criticism. In fact, I think it helps. But one of the things I do with my other tarot cards is I look at the faces, and I look for direction from the person's face as what sort of a character they are. And because these are so stylized, you can't really tell from the face. So you've got to get the clues from everything else in the picture. And as I say, I don't see that as a negative. I think it's something that means that you really do have to read all that's on the card, which I think is a good thing. Now, for pentacles, he uses the word coin, which does mean coin. But coin has a somewhat different meaning in Indonesia. I mean, don't get me wrong, we do use coins, but the coins have such little value that they're hardly used. In fact, they're thought, most people just think that they don't even carry them with them. Because their value is less than a penny, and the highest value one is less than a dime. Now, coins were first introduced to Indonesia through trading with the Chinese. And of course, the Chinese attached mystical values to coins. And because coins had never been used for exchange in Indonesia, it was just simply assumed that these things that the Chinese were giving them were mystical. Now, they became so popular as sort of amulets that the Chinese stopped minting them and sending them. So in Indonesia, they started to mint their own versions of the Chinese coins. And these later became, instead of copying the Chinese, they started to have Javanese, Majapahit in particular, mythology on them. And it took a long time for coins to actually being used as a unit of exchange. And still today, coins have a very, very mystical value. And the coins are represented by an amber colour, which means sensation. And the motifs used on them are the motifs of the people of Toraja in Sulawesi. Now, the Toraja people are very, very interesting. In Indonesia, you have to have an official religion, and their official religion is Christianity. But when you look at their actual religious practices, it's an animistic religion. There seems to be some sort of, there's a real importance to bulls in their religion, but also a degree of necromancy. So they bury the dead up in caves in the hills, but every year the dead are disinterred, put in their Sunday best clothes, and walked around the village. And you'll hear Torajan people claim that they're able to walk by themselves. Something that if you do some research on it, you will see these caves on the front of them. They carve effigies of the dead to place on the front of the caves. So I've never actually been there because it's quite difficult to get to, but I'd love to visit it because the Toraja people really do fascinate me. And now for cups, he uses the word PIALA, whereas the word for cup is Cangkir. So in choosing this word PIALA, he's really using the word for goblet. Now, I say Cangkir, but actually, traditionally, tea is drunk out of a glass, called a gelas. So he's chosen this on purpose. The other meaning of it is that there are loving cups, if you like, so a loving chalice. And so again, it has a much more mystical meaning than the obvious word that he chose. And you can see I've got a cup here, I'm showing a cup previously, which had an ular or snake on it, because these sort of vessels are much more traditionally used to store incense, to store sacred items, even to capture jinn in, you know, like the story of Aladdin. So it's a much more mystical flavour than you might think. And what he's used for cups is black and blue colours, which is about character. And he's represented these by the batik patterns of the Sentani people. Now, the Sentani people are Papuan people, and he's not really depicting Papuan people here. Sentani, which I've been to many times, is where the airport is, and there's a large lake called Danau Sentani, where the Sentani people live. But it's actually the airport and a part, I suppose, of the main city in Papua, which is called Jayapura. Jayapura is down on the coast. But there's so many different people that by the time you get to Jayapura, there've been, I don't know, maybe 7 different people you've crossed through from the airport to get down to the coast, with 7 distinct languages. A very interesting part of Indonesia, again, somewhat difficult to get to, but this time I have been there many times. For swords, he uses the word PEDANG, which is the literal translation of swords. But the actual swords that he shows are kris. And you can see here, I'm showing some of my kris. And I particularly like these wavy ones with the look, as they're called. Although all the ones he's showing are the straight ones, which were the ones used in execution. Now, a kris has very deep mystical significance across Indonesia, but particularly in Java. It's believed that spirit inhabit kris. These spirits could be good, they could be bad. They may like you, they might not like you. They're handed down from your ancestors through generations, so they may contain spirits of ancestors. But they're absolutely central to all magic and paranormal activity in Indonesia. They certainly do attract other spirits and other paranormal activity. And now, once a year, well, I say once a year, I might clean them more often than once a year, maybe once a month. And I would do this on a Thursday evening as the sun goes down, and I would clean them with an oil, and that's to please the spirit inside it. And I keep them wrapped in a banana leaf, or a Raja, king banana leaf, which again is meant to please the spirit. But once a year, we always clean them. And that once a year is on Satu, which means 1, Suro, which is the Javanese month. But that actually coincides with the Prophet's birthday, or Muhammad's birthday. So again, we do it on the evening as the sun goes down. And if there's some rust on them, we can use red arsenic to get rid of the rust, although I've never actually done that. But we clean them with lime. So we rub the lime on them, and then we put them in a bath of water, maybe with some coconut water in it, but also with dried flowers, in particular jasmine. So I bath them in jasmine, and I may well do that overnight and repeat the process. And we do that to keep the spirits in our kris happy. So Chris have a very, very deep ceremonial meaning, and as I say, that really is across the whole of Indonesia. And the green that's used for these swords is about thinking. And the images are from the Dyak tribe. The Dyak tribe are the famous sort of headhunting tribe of Borneo, again with their own magic, which is very different to Javanese magic, very unique to them. You do find a mixture. Some people, you do find a mixture of Javanese and magic from Borneo, but the Dyak magic, as I say, is completely separate. Again, I've never actually visited the land of the Dyak, which I'd love to do. I hope you love these cards as much as I do, because I really am finding my readings just wonderful using them. And as I say, I'm going to incorporate it in my readings on YouTube. I think this is the third edition I've bought, and it's relatively easy to get in Indonesia. But I believe you can get it fairly easily abroad. What I would say to you is, if you order from Indonesia, if you order from Indonesia, the postage will be probably more expensive than the cost of the cards. And my recent experience, particularly with this health crisis, is that it is terribly, terribly unreliable. So bear that in mind if you're ordering them. So I know that these things may go for high prices on eBay or on eBay in particular. They may go for high prices, but do consider that the shipping costs from Indonesia will be very high indeed. But I really would urge you to get them. I think they're absolutely wonderful cards. Well, I do hope you've enjoyed Tarot from Java as an addition to my channel, The Magic of Java. Please take a look at the other videos that I have on this channel about magic from Java, and I hope that you will become a subscriber. Now, if you want to hear your next tarot reading, hit the button, and that will inform you of when I publish new readings. I'm certainly going to do a reading for every month, but maybe I will try them a bit more frequently, say a mid-month reading, and maybe also some special readings. But above all, thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you, and enjoy Java.